Good night to the residents of Paradise Heights. I'm sure that those in West Terrace hear me, and maybe West Terrace Garden is close by, and those who are attending the meeting, and those who are online, a very good evening to you. We are here in support of the candidature of Dr. Ronnie Yearwood, and I'm not going to be too long because we're starting late. So with that, I'm going to call the candidate for St. Andrew, Alvin Skeet, to address you. Alvin.
A blessed and pleasant good evening to those of you, the residents of Paradise Heights, those of you from Wanstead, those of you in neighboring West Terrace, those of you within the hearing of my voice, and obviously those who are viewing this evening's proceedings that are online. I'm here to support my comrade, Dr. Ronnie Yearwood. I'm here briefly because time is of the essence, and we know that we have to be following the COVID-19 protocols, and therefore we don't want to be out after curfew. But given that in mind, there's still a message to be delivered to each and every resident, to each and every constituent, because the message must go forward so as to enable you to make a conscientious decision on January the 19th, 2022. Because this election has been foisted upon you earlier than you anticipated. But nevertheless, go out on January the 19th and give your support to none other than Dr. Ronnie Yearwood. And during this message that we delivered here tonight, I'm sure the information given would somehow resonate with you to help you in your decision making. Because in Ronnie Yearwood, you have a man that you can trust. In Ronnie Yearwood, you have a man that you can rely on. In Ronnie Yearwood, you have a man that will get things done. People in this constituency need that kind of representative, and for sure needs that kind of representation. Ronnie would bring his message to you, but I am just encouraging you to give him the support. And there are a number of things that bother people, not only in this area of Paradise Heights and Wanstead and West Terrace, but in and across every district, every constituency, there is a growing sense of dissatisfaction and discomfort to the people of this great nation. Some people murmur in the corridors of the supermarkets. Some people discuss it after they've left church. Some people discuss the issues within the lunchrooms of their workplaces. But wherever they are, whomever they are, wherever they are, they're discussing the burdening issues that are affecting people in and across this country. And one of those most devastating issues is the rising cost of living. Ever since the third quarter of 2018, the inflation rate in this country has been growing by almost 2% every single quarter. And that, my friends, amounts to a serious, serious cost of living. People of all walks of life are finding it increasingly difficult to do the things that are necessary to help themselves and their families continue in a lifestyle that's pleasing to them. Because Barbadians have known to living a high standard and a good quality of life. But in recent years, that quality of life is diminishing. And the standards which we hold so dear and try hard to keep are falling by the wayside. And we must ask ourselves, is this the kind of status quo that we want to keep, not only for ourselves, but for our children and our children's children? Because each day you go to work, you fight so hard to earn a decent and honest living. And in that, you want satisfaction for what your efforts are required. And my dear friends, we are putting in the effort daily, but we are not reaping just rewards. Because it seems to me, and I'm sure that it starts to affect you as well, that when you start to look at your purchasing power, it's almost like your dollar is being devalued at every turn. Because the quantum of goods that you would normally be taking home from your grocery shopping is becoming less on every time you pay that supermarket a visit. But not only are the amounts that you are taking home less, but the cost is rising significantly. A person ordinarily would not mind paying high quality if they know they're going to get the quantum that is desired. But if that quantum is not commensurate with the output cost, then we have a serious problem. That means that we have a serious imbalance. And once we find that imbalance, and the imbalance is going in the wrong direction, therefore increasing your expenditure, that means that the other things that you would normally do, giving your children allowances, is going to be cut short. And the increase is not only for the adults. Because for those of you who have children of school age, we see the cost for the school uniforms are growing astronomically as well. We must ask ourselves, can anything be done in this regard? One would say that most of the things we use are imported. Yes, the majority of things we use are imported. But it can be turned around. We have to look at the ways and means of how we get things into Barbados and what causes the hiccups when they get to Barbados and what causes the costs to rise after the goods get to Barbados. Because when you look at invoices from the so-called suppliers, and when you match the costs from the retailers, you will see a significant increase. And it's not because the retailers are doing what some people term as price gouging. It's just because the system that is in place is causing them to have to make these significant markups on the cost of items. And then that cost is automatically passed on to the consumer. So we have to look at ways in which we can mitigate that cost that is passed on to the consumer and break it down. And break it down in a way that the benefits would be down to those who are doing distribution, and then it would be intended to pass on to the consumer. We don't want it to stop at the person who's only doing the distribution and the retail, but the benefits must also be passed on to the consumers. When you look at one of the major problems in distribution, it is the high cost of fuel and transportation. And not only do we have a high excise tax on the fuel, we have a cess tax on the fuel. And on top of that, we turned and added the fuel tax. So what are we telling ourselves? We have a high fuel import bill already. We know that on an annual basis, we spend almost $1 billion in fuel. And we are still going to put more taxation on fuel. There are several other ways and means in which we as a people can raise revenue to survive for those who are in need of social services. Because indeed those people need to be protected by the social safety net. But it does not mean that those people who are in the middle class must bear all the burden. It does not mean that those who are at the bottom must bear all the burden. It just means that each and every one must come together collectively and take that responsibility to do just that, which is right for our people. And we must find a justifiable way, a more equitable way of applying these taxes, that they don't only burden those at the bottom and in the middle class, but that they are shared across the board to provide quality of life for all our people. And I say this to you tonight because as a business person, these things affect the input costs in our businesses on a daily basis. And it impacts heavily on our cash flow to run the business affordably. And if we want to continue small businesses, we have to look at ways of easing the pressure of the people that are in small business. We must no longer look at squeezing the life out of small business, but look at a hand up and not tokenism and handouts. Because for too long, small businesses who try in earnest to provide an honest and daily living for themselves and their family, who provide good services to neighborhoods and districts in and across each and every constituency, because that was our way of life for quite some time. And you have looked back in the past few years and seen how small businesses have been suffering. None more so than in the pandemic we're facing right now. We have all the large supermarkets being open on a daily. But a man who's running a little small shop in the neighborhood cannot open his small shop. They're told they're going to get compensation. Once you apply and you register, you will receive compensation. And up until this very present day, some of those same owners of those small businesses have not received 1 red cent. That, my friends, is not caring government. That, my friends, is squeezing the dear life out of small businesses. And we must do better by our people. We can do better by our people. But it takes people with vision. Because where there's no vision, the people perish. And in Ronnie Yearwood this evening, you have a man with vision. You have a candidate with purpose. You have a candidate that would hear your concerns. You have a candidate that would attend to your very needs and look after your very best interests. So I urge you to go out on January 19th, 2022 from 6 a.m. until 6 p.m. Follow very carefully the COVID-19 protocols and ensure that come the night on January 19th, Ronnie Yearwood will be your duly chosen representative for the constituency of St. James South. One village, one district, one by one, each person hand in heart, one love, one people, one Barbados. Good night, and may God continue to bless you. Happy New Year to each and every one of you.
Because Ronnie is the man that will get it done, get it done. Vote Ronnie Yearwood to represent St. James South. Ronnie Yearwood make things better for everyone. Empowering the people is the only way. Your vote is important, you deserve the best representation. Vote for Ronnie Yearwood, cause it's time to make a change. January 19th, the day to get it done. Vote for Ronnie Yearwood on election day.
Thanks for all coming and giving support to Ronnie. Always spoke about cost of living. And there's two things I want to say that affects on the cost of on the cost of living. I heard Gary Simmons saying that they're going to kick the levels of freight rates to the 2019, what they were in 2019. Gary Simmons have no say in what shipping lines is going to price you in terms of freight rates. And I have no doubt about that. There's one other matter too. When the BLP won the government in 2018 in the mini budget, and I'm saying this because I heard the then Prime Minister say that she don't tell lies. She said that there is a crane bought by the last administration, gantry crane, there's no gantry tree, and they had no way to put it. That gantry crane is in port, assembled, and working. So that was a lie. In terms of cost of living again, many of you do not know that once before when you bought in-person effects, barrels, D containers, E containers, EH containers, you did not pay duty on freight. Since the BLP have come into power, you now have to pay duties on the freight rate on barrels and any person effects. Those of you who don't know, you should check with the broker because that is happening. And that have pushed up the cost of bringing in person effects. Tonight we have another speaker from close by. I would say a brother to our constituency in St. Michael's Central, Paul Gibson. And I see Paul as my son. I know Paul when he's like an intern working at colonies. And he's here with us to give support to his brother, Dr. Ronnie Yearwood. Paul Gibson.
Ronnie Yearwood is a man for the people who has championed numerous initiatives for St. James South, including a free Wi-Fi program for the Haynesville community. Ronnie thinks outside the box and promotes social justice and economic empowerment for all Barbadians. If you want good representation for St. James South, vote for Ronnie Yearwood on January 19th because Ronnie Yearwood will get it done. Vote for Ronnie Yearwood on Election Day.
Good night to Paradise Heights and the persons to my left, which is the Wanstead Terrace. Tonight we're so happy to be in this community to talk about this exciting candidate, Dr. Ronnie Yearwood, a man that has been championing the cause for Barbadians for quite a few months in respect to the matters of constitutionality and the laws and so on. He has been the one in the dead of night doing the research, combing the constitutions of the world to point out very clearly where we were going as we navigated the whole republic. And a lot of people don't realize, but we still don't have a constitution. It's a half-baked, incomplete document. And it is very unfortunate, but we are moving along the way, not listening to Ronnie because he's making some significant points. And a lot of international lawyers that step in and look at what he's saying, they're in total agreement with him about his position in respect to the different types of republics and the fact that we are not looking with clarity at what is happening to Barbados. And we as Barbadians, we as intelligent Barbadians must not be permitted to allow this to happen to us. As a matter of fact, I want to say to you tonight that there are many things happening behind the curtain that we are unaware of. There are many things happening to you and to your family that you are unaware of. I'm going to say to you that there are a lot of deals that we are not seeing, but I'm happy to say tonight that there's one such deal that had to go before a U.S. court to be adjudicated. And that is the matter of the vaccines. Now, you may say, that again? Why are you talking about vaccines? Well, let me put that into perspective for you. I am a pharmacist. I also work with an international pharmaceutical company, GlaxoSmithKline. And I'm going to tell you that there are procedures and policies that are put in place to ensure that the quality of vaccines are managed in a very clear and systematic manner. And therefore, there is no such thing as the wild, wild west when it comes to vaccine procurement. As a matter of fact, the very font size that is on the bottle or the vial is regulated. It is a very highly regulated and very technical thing. And the reason why I'm saying that to you is because we were given a story that there was a wild, wild west surrounding the vaccine situation. But thank God that we were able to see the curtain pulled on that because of the court case. Now, I am very concerned that there are many, many other situations like this that we happen to be unaware of that is happening with this Barbados Labour Party government. It is of grave concern to me. And why I spoke about vaccines is because the vaccines that were going to be purchased actually cost $3 US. I'll repeat, $3 US. The persons that were going to procure those vaccines were going to buy them for $24 US. I repeat, they were going to purchase vaccines that cost $3 for $24 US. And do you know what? There was actually a sign-off by the PS and an agreement that they were going to allow that to proceed. Now, had the court case not come up, had we not had visibility as to what was happening in that situation, we would have had a situation where the taxpayers of Barbados would have been paying, would have been having to pay a profit to those persons procuring those vaccines of $12.5 million US. That's the profit to going to a few people. I was going to say to one man, but it could be just a few. $12.5 million US to the taxpayers. That is absolutely ludicrous. And this is what is happening in our country, Barbados, had that gone through. What is of significant concern to me tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and people of Paradise Heights, is that there are nurses that cannot even get gloves and are being given 3 pairs of gloves to last a week. There are rodents running through the hospital, and they're marching and saying, listen, give us the fundamental things we need. But no, they can give certain people these large profits and give our hard-working nurses a hard time to manage in a COVID environment. Isn't that something? Isn't that a concern to you? Ladies and gentlemen, they are taking people that would have worked all their lives and want to pay their gratuity in bonds. 4-year bonds and 15-year bonds in some cases. But they're paying cash to other people had that deal gone through. And what is sick about that, what is disturbing about that, is that the middle class of Barbados is beginning to disappear at a rate like we have never seen before. The middle class of Barbados, which a lot of us here in Paradise Heights live, that middle class is dissipating, is disappearing. And people are feeling a weightiness and a heaviness they have never felt before. And ladies and gentlemen, it's time to stop it. Enough is enough. A representative that is silent, that is not representing you, is not what you need. What you need is a man that not only speaks about the Constitution, not only takes care of the constituents of this constituency, but gives himself and his knowledge and his experience to ensuring that you, the residents of Paradise Heights, Dr. Ronnie Yearwood is going to make sure that you are represented within the halls of the Parliament of Barbados. I want to say to you, you need a voice that can be heard. I want to say to you that silence will not help you. The silence of your constituent will not help you. But you need a voice. You don't need people that are just going along to get along. You need representation. Active representation. And I'm here tonight to share with you that Dr. Ronnie Yearwood is such a man. Dr. Ronnie Yearwood is a man that will go ahead and prepare, would research, and would connect with you and make sure that representation in the House of Assembly is what you are getting. It is not a time where we could just go along to get along. It must be that someone must have a conscience to say, listen, enough is enough. The riches of Barbadians in this country must not be allowed to have all the goods and the spoils. There must be equity. It is not just equality you want. It is equity you want. Equality is giving everybody the same stool to stand on, even though the wall is 7 foot tall. You're giving a 1 foot stool to a 5 foot man, a 1 foot stool to a 3 foot man, a 1 foot stool to a 1 foot man, but a 6 foot man, you give him a 1 foot stool as well. Now, only one person in that can look over the wall. The aim is to get all Barbadians looking over the wall. That is equality. But equity ensures that 5 foot man has a 2 foot stool, and that the 3 foot man has a 4 foot stool, so that you are giving to every Barbadian according to his requisite needs, according to what he needs to make him successful. So if you need additional education, additional services, additional help and support, that is the type of leadership that is required. And in this particular condition in Barbados, one set of people are getting everything, and the others are being left to suck salt. When last did you go to the supermarket? You would realize that your trolley is half as full as it was about 4 years ago. You would realize that paying a credit card becomes a challenge. Paying school fees become a challenge. The water bill has gone up 115% over what it was before. That the cost of living in Barbados has exponentially increased. And ladies and gentlemen, the pain and the suffering that Barbadians are experiencing is of grave concern. I know this breaks the heart of Dr. Ronnie Yearwood. I know this breaks the heart of the Democratic Labour Party. And I know it breaks the heart of those hard-working people who would have put their money on the bank or allow themselves to study to get to a level where they can take care of their families. And they're now beginning to feel that pain. That pain sometimes is causing depression and hardship of thought, not being able to sleep properly sometimes. Or if you have kids, you're wondering how they're managing. And I'm saying tonight, Barbados is at the crossroads. It is at a place where we need to have balance. And the balance would come when we put the adequate or requisite number of persons in Parliament to run this country. We believe the Democratic Labour Party should run it. But more specifically, for St. James Central, we believe that your candidate, Dr. Ronnie Yearwood, should be the man to represent you, because he will do a tremendous job. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are at a crossroads. Tonight we are hearing a Prime Minister say that they have to be careful, people have to be careful who they vote for, as if they don't believe that the voice of the people is the voice of God, that doesn't matter anymore. It matters. You matter. Your vote matters. Your young people in your house matter. And I'll tell you why. The weightiness of paying back $2.6 billion in debt is something that your children and your grandchildren will have to pay back. And unless new initiatives, unless new industries, unless our international banking sector, unless corporate Barbados is stimulated, unless we find new ways to bring revenue into this country, we are going to be in some serious, serious trouble. And unfortunately, all that the Barbados Labour Party is able to do is to give people jobs cleaning up volcanic ash. That is called maintenance. We're not looking at it with shame. We're not saying that they shouldn't do it because people need to earn money. But a visionary government would be creating new industries for us so that our young people who are coming up will have opportunities, so that the young people will have salaries, that we are developing capacity so that when they graduate, that they're able to work, not stay home and listen to music and play video games all day. That's not why we raised them. We raised them to fly like eagles. And we must create opportunities for them to fly like eagles. And that is what the Democratic Labour Party has been doing for many years. The last 2 years have seen the regression of our educational system in a way that we have never seen or probably would never have imagined. As a pharmacist, I'll tell you this. Things like lice are coming back to Barbados in a way that we have never seen. It's disturbing because people are suffering. People in Barbados are suffering. Tonight, I want to implore you. I want you, as you pray in your room and talk to your God, to give thought to who you want to represent you in the next term of our parliament. I want to be very sober about the experience that you've had within the last 4 years. I want you to think 15 years ahead about your children and the weight that this government has put on them in terms of having to pay back the massive loans that they borrowed, which they're doing nothing with. That is developmental. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, I want you to think hard and long, because I will tell you, when you take this thing to its furthest logical end, there could only be one conclusion you can make, that it is time to change the constituent of this constituency of St. James South. I'm going to tell you this. It is time to put Dr. Ronnie Yearwood in the seat, the driver's seat, to drive on your behalf and to represent you and to represent your family. These are sobering times. These are troubling times. And we must make those decisions that are of value and of importance to your family and to your future. As I land the plane, I will say this to you. In politics, I always put a child in a corner and an adult and a grandmother in a corner so that I could see who I am serving and representing. This is about service to country, service to citizens, service to the weakest and most vulnerable, both the young and the old. And tonight, it is time that we stand up for those vulnerable. And Ronnie Yearwood, Dr. Ronnie Yearwood, would stand up for the vulnerable of Barbados. I want to thank you tonight. I want to thank you tonight for voting Dr. Ronnie Yearwood on the 19th of January, which is Wednesday next week. It's not too far away. It is here. Bring your family out. Bring your relatives out. Bring your children out and get out and vote for the Democratic Labour Party. But more specifically, look for the name Dr. Ronnie Yearwood. Look for Yearwood, Ronnie, Doctor, on January 19th. I want to thank you for allowing me to share with you and coming to your home tonight. I want to thank you for listening tonight. And my heart is heavy for this country. Ronnie's heart is heavy for this country. We want to raise the standard because when the water rises, all ships rise. And we want Paradise Heights to rise. God bless you. God bless Barbados. And good night. Thank you.
Vote for Ronnie Yearwood on election day. Because Ronnie is the man that will get it done. Get it done. Vote for Ronnie Yearwood to represent St. James South. Ronnie Yearwood make things better for everyone. Empowering the people is the only way. Your vote is important, you deserve the best representation. Vote for Ronnie Yearwood, cause it's time to make a change. January 19th, the day to get it done. Vote for Ronnie Yearwood on election day.
Thanks to Paul Gibson, candidate for St. James Central. I so much had my thoughts on St. Michael Central. Earlier I said St. Michael Central, but, you know, as the old people will say, my neighbor Strainberry in that constituency also. The members of the Democratic Labour Party will be speaking about pensions. But last month, December, just before Christmas, some people did not receive their pensions, and some did. But it was chaotic at the NIS, and we were not told that the acting director was transferred from the NIS, the permanent secretary in international business. So they couldn't get nothing do right. So that's why a lot of people, they were paid late or weren't paid at all. Anyhow, we're going to move from pensions to St. John. St. John is a constituency that have had good representation over the years. The Right Honourable His Excellency Elbara. Then you had the Honourable David Thompson, former Prime Minister, and his wife Mara. But for 3.5 years, there was no representation for the people of St. John. I think the minister get to just shift vote. But come January 19th, I can assure you that the people of St. John will once again return to proper representation when Angela Worrel is elected to the House of Assembly. Angela Worrel will now address you.
Ronnie Yearwood is a man for the people who has championed numerous initiatives for St. James South, including a free Wi-Fi program for the Haynesville community. Ronnie thinks outside the box and promotes social justice and economic empowerment for all Barbadians. If you want good representation for St. James South, vote for Ronnie Yearwood on January 19th because Ronnie Yearwood will get it done. Vote for Ronnie Yearwood on election day.
Good night to the constituents of St. James South. My fellow candidate, Paul Gibson from St. James Central, and next representative for St. James South, Dr. Ronnie Yearwood. It's a pleasure for me to speak tonight on this platform on behalf of Dr. Ronnie Yearwood, to encourage you to give him your support on the 19th of January. And there are a number of reasons why you need a representative like Dr. Ronnie Yearwood in the House of Assembly speaking up on behalf of the people of not only St. James South, but Barbados on a number of troubling issues which we have encountered over the last 3.5 years. And I will go way back to one of the first actions that this current Barbados Labour Party administration took when they came to office in 2018. With a single stroke of a pen, they ruined in Barbados the bond market. And I am certain if the House of Assembly had persons like Dr. Ronnie Yearwood in the House of Assembly, they would have been challenged in terms of passing that legislation which ruined the bond market in Barbados and I am certain would have caused a number of persons in this St. James South constituency to lose large sums of money which they were hoping they would be able to use for their retirement. Because of decisions like that, you need representation by persons such as Dr. Ronnie Yearwood to speak up on your behalf. Because I know that for years, Barbadians, civil servants, professionals, doctors, lawyers would have been glad to see a bond issue in Barbados so that you can buy that bond, so that you can buy the treasury note, because you know that these were good, solid securities with paying decent interest rates. And it was a good way for you to save up some money for your retirement. But with a single stroke of a pen and without thinking about what they were doing, the Barbados Labour Party administration, led by Mayor Motley, decided that they were going into a debt restructuring program, and they slashed the interest rates for treasuries and securities and forced persons who had invested in those instruments, many of them being pensioners who were already retired or close to retirement, to have to wait years before they would be able to get any money out of that bond market. If you had a representative like Dr. Ronnie Yearwood, I am certain he would have put up a fight in the House of Assembly against things like that. If you had Dr. Ronnie Yearwood as someone in the cabinet of Barbados, I do not think that such a decision would have been made, because there is no way, and you need those instruments in order for government to raise funds to meet their cash flow obligations. But you know what? Because of what they did and the hurt that they inflicted in a number of persons who held those treasury notes and all of those instruments, I will find it hard for any Barbadian to seriously want to invest in those instruments at this time, because they took away from us what was a security that you figured that you could depend on. There is no longer any security in that. And investing in it comes at a risk, because this Barbados Labour Party administration showed that with a stroke of a pen, something which held a decent security rate could be taken away. And I know it inflicted a lot of pain for a number of persons in middle class Barbadians who were depending on that money for their retirement, who were depending on that money to possibly pay off their mortgages, who were depending on that money to maybe to send to school, to send their children to university, who were depending on that money to upgrade their homes or possibly buy a new vehicle at the time of retirement, because that was sure money, that was a sure investment. But today, that is gone, and we were robbed of that in Barbados without any consultation with the people of Barbados, without even listening to them. And that is why on the 19th of January, when we go to the polls, you need to take some serious decisions of the kind of Barbados that we want to live in, and the things, and vote for a government or administration that would return some level of democracy and listening to the people of Barbados, that would take on advice from the average citizen and for experts in terms of managing this country. And you also need to vote for a representative who will speak up for you and agitate on your behalf so that things like that will not happen to you again. And that was just one example of the things which would have happened in this country, because we had an administration which did not pay attention or care about the people of Barbados. You would have heard Dr. Ronnie Yearwood quite often over the last couple of months before November, agitating that we needed wider consultation when we were dealing with the republic issue and the changing of the constitution and the country moving to a republic. He wasn't doing it just because he's a lawyer and he's a lecturer at the University of the West Indies and his background is in constitutional law. He was doing it because he recognized it's a fundamental right for the country. It is a part of the democratic process to have open dialogue for a country that is taking such a major political step moving to a republic, that you need to educate your people and bring them along. And he is one of the persons who took it upon himself to speak out and try to educate Barbadians about what a republic is, what were the necessary changes in the constitution, and how best to go about bringing about the changes to make Barbados a republic. But instead of listening and embracing persons such as Dr. Ronnie Yearwood, his advice was pushed aside, and we rushed headlong into a republic on the 30th of November. And many Barbadians to this day still do not quite grasp and understand what the process was all about. Many Barbadians to this day did not have that opportunity to walk along and share in what should have been a celebratory process for this country. In fact, the celebrations were quite low-keyed, and as a result of COVID, it was only for the privileged few in Barbados. That is not the way how you would want this country to remember making such a fundamental step in terms of its governance, independence, and democracy, that it was a moment that was really just celebrated by a small section of Barbados, and it was not felt across length and breadth of Barbados and by persons from every community and every walk of life. Dr. Ronnie Yearwood agitated that we should have had more consultation on these things. But this government, who seems hell-bent on having their way come hell or high water, pushed ahead with it in the middle of a pandemic. And then at the time when it came to celebrate the Republic, our COVID numbers were so high that they had to reduce the numbers or could only have the activities and the celebrations with a very limited few. So as a result, many of us Barbadians, the moment came and the moment went and we were not there, we were not involved. It did not seem as though it included us because it did not start with us. It did not continue with us Barbadians being a part of it. It did not continue with giving us the opportunity to put forward our ideas on the things that we would like to see change in Barbados becoming a republic. It is not just about removing the Queen as the head of state and having the president now Dame Sandra Mason. It is more than that. And we thought throughout the Democratic Labour Party that we should have utilized this opportunity to make some changes to our entire governance structure, including the parliamentary process as well. And Dr. Ronnie Yearwood agitated for those things. But you know what? After the 19th of January, someone like Dr. Ronnie Yearwood will be needed in the House of Assembly, in the Cabinet of Barbados, to help us to craft the Constitution, which this current Barbados Labour Party administration left adrift, because remember, we were promised. We were promised that immediately after November 30th and into the new year, that the first order of business would be crafting the new Constitution of Barbados. But here we are tonight, under these street lights. We are not talking about the new Constitution of Barbados, but we are talking about election. And we are encouraging you to vote for the Democratic Labour Party. So here we have a situation where this government did not even keep their word. and they called a snap election in the middle of a pandemic 18 months before it is due. And we have to answer ourselves the question, why? And really, who does this government really care about? Now, we are faced in a situation in this country at this time where we are having a election with Omicron spread in Barbados, where we are having more than 500 cases, over 400 cases on a daily basis. Right now, we have about 2,000 plus persons in isolation. And we are wondering by the 19th of January, when those numbers increase, and we could very well have about 8,000 or more persons in isolation on the 19th of January, how can those persons execute their democratic right to vote? These are things that should have been considered by a caring government before running to call a snap election 18 months before it was due. Because we should not be in this situation where we are now trying to figure out the logistics of how we will make sure that those persons have their right to vote. Because 8,000 persons is almost an entire constituency. There are some smaller constituencies like the City and St. Michael's Central, which may not even have 8,000 persons. And we are in a situation now where persons may not be able to vote because they have COVID. We're also in a situation where some elderly persons or persons who are high risk may not be willing to take the risk to go to the polls to vote. All of these things, to me, should have been considered before rushing into a general election at this time. There was no need for the election. When the Prime Minister came on to speak about the election, she tried to give the impression that it was because of Caswell Franklin and his Unity Workers Union and the striking nurses that it seemed as though the rest of Barbados is ready for what she called the silly season. But the only person that was really ready for the silly season and wanted the silly season was Prime Minister Motley. Because Prime Ministers are supposed to lead and maintain balance in the country. Calling an election at this time is not showing leadership. It is not maintaining balance in the country. If you can call an election because nurses are striking, because they figure that their conditions of services could be better, that is not maintaining balance. What the Prime Minister should have done is to come down off of her high horse and put aside, be the bigger person in the situation, put aside any issues that which she may have with Caswell Franklin, and allow the trade union industrial relation process in Barbados to work the correct way. And do not try to rush this country into an election and try to use the strike by the nurses and the mere fact that the Democratic Labour Party came out and said that the government should negotiate with the nurses, and Unity Workers Union said the same thing, and the opposition leader basically said the same thing, and to say that this country is in a silly season and we seem to be forcing for an election. No, that is not what you should do. Because a leader would take stock of the entire situation. You would recognize that Omicron variant is at our front door. Because at that time, you were not screening the visitors coming in, the vaccinated visitors. You were allowing them to walk straight through the airport and go wherever they felt like doing without even testing them a second time or even asking them to quarantine for 2 to 3 days. So you knew that this country would be at risk of having a major COVID spread due to Omicron. And you knew the impact that that would have on the election process. So therefore you should consider those things. And if the country is likely to have another COVID outbreak, the healthcare system will need those nurses to be on duty again. Because you cannot say that the nurses that you gave a shiny silver dollar with a blue fish and you praise in 2020 for for going beyond the call of duty to treat persons with COVID, that now these same nurses are the worst thing in Barbados, that they're not willing to work and they have a poor work ethic, that they don't care about their patients. That is the furthest thing from the mind of these nurses. The reason why these nurses were on strike is because they recognize that things are not right within the healthcare sector in Barbados. Things were not right for them. And they have long-standing issues that needed to be addressed, and they felt that you were not addressing their issues. You cannot be telling nurses that have been working, dealing with hundreds of COVID-positive patients, that they are not entitled to hazard pay, when you are giving other nurses who are working in the isolation facilities the same hazard pay. But the nurses at the polyclinics were dealing with COVID-positive patients too. Right now, because you have community spread, basically anybody who goes into any healthcare facility can potentially be COVID positive. So they deserve the hazard pay. You cannot tell the nurses that they do not deserve proper PPE equipment to protect them from contracting or even spreading COVID to some of their patients. These are the things that they were striking for. You also cannot tell the nurses that a safe zone means just being that all of the nurses and all the healthcare workers are vaccinated, when safety comes with other things too. When you would have heard in the news that nurses and healthcare workers were being attacked at the hospital. Persons can run in off of the polyclinics with a cutlass and attack the nurses. They want proper security. You also have nurses in Barbados who many of you may not know, but the nurses who came in from Ghana and Cuba and all of those places are placed on a pedestal and treated far better than the nurses here in Barbados. You have nurses here in Barbados, when they finish their night shift, there's no transportation to take them home. But the nurses who came in from Ghana and Cuba and all of those places, they have transportation to take them from home to work. And you expect the nurses here in Barbados to work under those conditions, when some nurses have to walk lonely roads in order to get home, take the last bus. And you know, because we are under curfew, there are not many people on the last bus anymore. And this caring government, we have been under curfew for all of last year. And they did not make provision to make sure that nurses who have to work the late shift can properly get home. They made the provision for the nurses who came in from overseas. The next thing that the nurses have right to complain about, the nurses from Ghana, from Cuba, they're paid at the top level of the scale, the salary scale. Many of them do not have the qualifications of the nurses here in Barbados. They did not have to take the Nurses Council exam. And you expect our Barbadian nurses, many of those nurses cannot, well, one, there's the language barrier, and two, they cannot do the things that a nurse who is registered with the Nurses Council would have to do. So you find that our Barbadian nurses working along with these nurses from Ghana and other areas have to do double work. So legitimately, the nurses had reason to protest. The nurses had reason to ask for increase in their pay and better conditions, because you are bringing in nurses who don't reach the qualification bar of the nurses trained in Barbados, but you are paying them at the top of the salary scale and not offering a similar payment package to your nurses here in Barbados. That would offend anybody. These are things that the nurses had a legitimate reason to strike for, and the Prime Minister ought to have sat down, allowed the industrial relation process to work, because, first of all, she had no right being involved in it. The industrial relation process, simply, you deal with it at the level of the chief labor officer. If he's not able to deal with it, he invites the Minister of Labor. I believe that we still have one of those. And if the Minister of Labor is not able to resolve it, well, then you invite the Prime Minister to negotiate. But instead of doing that, instead of respecting the strike, we went straight to a general election, which I don't know how that is going to solve the problem. But I can tell you how it will solve the problem. Because on the 19th of January, all of Barbados has an opportunity, when they go to the polls, vote for a government that is willing to deal with the problems and the issues and not put the blame on someone else. Vote for the Democratic Labour Party and vote for persons like Dr. Ronnie Yearwood in St. James South. Vote for Paul Gibson in St. James Central. And of course, vote for Worrel in St. John, Worrel de Pisa in St. Lucie, and all the Democratic Labour Party candidates all across Barbados. We will deal with the issues facing this country. We have solutions which you will hear from our manifesto launch to deal with the issues. We are not going to throw it on to anybody else. And we will have persons like Dr. Ronnie Yearwood who will stand up for you in the House of Assembly to make sure that we have a good governance structure and a country which we can be proud of. So I am happy tonight to speak on behalf of Dr. Ronnie Yearwood, and to all of you hearing my voice, the vote for the 19th of January in St. James South is Dr. Ronnie Yearwood, the best representative for this area. Thank you and have a good night.
Vote for Ronnie Yearwood on election day, because Ronnie is the man that will get it done, get it done. Vote for Ronnie Yearwood to represent St. James South. Ronnie Yearwood make things better for everyone. Empowering the people is the only way. Your vote is important, you deserve the best representation. Vote for Ronnie Yearwood, cause it's time to make a change. January 19th, the day to get it done. Vote for Ronnie Yearwood on election day.
Good night, St. James South, good night, Paradise Heights, good night, West Terrace, good night, Wanstead, good night, anyone within earshot. Good night to the audience at home. I want to thank you for coming out. I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for joining this movement. I want to thank you for listening and supporting the Democratic Labour Party. I want to thank you for supporting democracy in Barbados. And I was going to start by getting straight to policy, because last night in Haggett Hall we had a wonderful meeting. Thank you for turning out. I said this election was going to be about policy, policy, policy. I talked about optimism, winning the day. I talked about walking in the sunshine. I talked about new politics. And I meant it. But at the same time, I will not allow anyone to denigrate me. And I will defend myself. I will not go in the gutter. But if necessary that I have to reach into the gutter to show someone the light, I will do it. You know, the old people say, don't trouble trouble. Especially when it don't trouble you.
Here comes trouble, here comes the danger, sent by the Savior, welcome the Rasta you.
So, I understand that Mayor Motley, on her platform last night, saw it fit and right to not only be disingenuous, disrespectful, and dishonest towards me. But let me say this, and we're going to get this out the way quickly. If Mayor Motley wants to call my name, it is Dr. Ronnie Rothschild Fernando Yearwood, born the 23rd of June, 1979. And let it be known, I don't want nothing from Mayor Motley because she can talk about it. But I can address that on Wednesday in Haynesville. And if me and Motley want to come down in Haynesville, I have no problem with that. Because me and Motley has not seemed to learn the lesson. You don't interfere with Northmen or men from St. Peter. So if she needs to be taught that twice, I have no problem doing that. So I know she can get the message. Whoever can carry it back. So understand this. I didn't go looking for the trouble. I just doing my thing, promoting my policies, representing the people of this constituency as best as I can, even though I am not the elected representative of this constituency yet, representing the people of Barbados, fighting for the issues that concern you, whether it's on the Constitution, whether it's on the J bonds, whether it's on economic policy, universal basic income, your right to vote, your right to participate, your right to be consulted in this country. Why would you interfere with me? I never held a cabinet post. I never get in a Senate peg. I was never a minister, a permanent secretary. I am just from that other noble profession, teachers. But, as I said, come down to Haynesville Wednesday night, and we would deal with me and Motley as appropriate. So now we get on to the substance. Because this campaign, my campaign, is about you. It's about us. It's about me, and it's about all of us as a family. It's about caring. It's about empowerment. And I mean that. Anything that I have done, all the projects in this community that we have done in the last 12 months or so have always focused on empowering. Because that is what new politics is about. That is how we will achieve a new democracy. That is how we will build the vision that our boroughs started. The Democratic Labour Party provided independence, political independence for Barbados. The next journey of this great party is economic independence. We must empower and enfranchise Barbadians so that they can create wealth for themselves and their children. That is the project that has been left untouched, and the Democratic Labour Party is the party that must do this. It is its calling, it is its sacred duty to stand up and to do it. And we have the bold slate of new, fresh candidates that can do this. We can get this done. Do not let anybody tell you that this Democratic Labour Party is not ready. Some of us were born ready for this. The Corey Coxes of this world, the Ryan Walters of this world, the Andre Worrels of this world. What do you think we've been doing all of our lives, fighting and representing for people? We didn't just arrive yesterday. People talk about they don't know the candidates of the Democratic Labour Party. They don't know who you are. You don't have a national profile. But you know what? You know the candidates of the Democratic Labour Party. You know why? Because they're people like you. People that had to struggle and work hard to move from where they were to middle class areas like this. People who born in single parents families, whose parents didn't have none. I grew up for running water. I had a pit toilet. People who had to get scholarships to go to school. That, you know the people of the Democratic Labour Party. Do not let anybody tell you don't know these. You know them. Do you know why you know them? Because there are people like you. And this party has always been the party of you. You know, Mayor Motley said, and I might not be able to pronounce this word too good, so don't laugh at me. She said that the Democratic Labour Party is like a pilau, a little mixed pot. I like cooking. Says a little 1-2. But you know what? She said it's an insult. You know, who's eating pilau? No boy, you know, that's one of food, not a proper food. But nothing wrong with pilau. Nothing we grow up eating pilau. I used to eat pilau. My campaign manager just cooked pilau for me. Thank you. Hand on heart. Hand on heart. Saltfish and chicken pilau. That's true. And you know what? Pilau just got in a little bit of everything. Because this is a party for everyone. Every class, color, creed, everybody is part of this party. Everyone is part of this party. The believers, the non-believers, everybody mixed up in here. Because it's a family. There's a reason why this is called the Dear Loving Party. It's not a mistake. It is not random. There's a reason we are talking about one Barbados. Because we mean it. We will walk the walk, we will talk the talk, and we will get it done. I am here because politics is not a sport for me. This is serious business. I've spent my entire life preparing for this moment. I have spent all of who I am to give all of who I am to serve this country. And it is what I've committed myself to doing all of my life. And I mean it when I say that you can trust me that I'm here to represent you. I mean it when I say that this Democratic Labour Party cares about you. I mean it when I say I will fight for the issues that are serious to you. I will fight for them inside the party. I will fight for them outside the party. I will fight for them everywhere. Here, internationally, regionally, does not matter. I am on your side all the time. Every day, every hour, every minute. Now, when I say that we're going to practice new politics, I also mean it. I am not here to mudsling. I am not here to talk anybody's name. I'm not here to get involved in that. But I always will say, I will defend myself. I just want the record to state that. Now, in terms of some of the issues that are affecting you in this area, I just want to focus on a few things, and I'm just going to run through a few policy initiatives. I know that folks in this area have, as all over Barbados, have been having a rough time. Youth unemployment, your pensions are taxed as income, so you're paying roughly the same rates that you were paying in your working days, and that's not right. It's not just, because you do not have the kind of income that you need to pass on to your kids and your grandkids and to help them out. I know that there have been issues in terms of joblessness among you. I know pension and old people's poverty is an issue here. I know internet poverty is an issue in parts of the community. We have tried to help in every way that we can, whether it is facilitation of our Wi-Fi project, whether it's our Christmas support programs, whether it's our social welfare programs. And trust me, I will not get on any platform that has been done by Mayor Motley or anybody else and wave boat checks and talk about white gay people, because that is not who I am. It has never been who I am, and it never will be who I am. Because this is a party that cares about you. I am here because I love my country. I would not be on this platform with the Democratic Labour Party if I did not believe that the people that are part of this party loves Barbados also and wants the best for this country and believes in this one Barbados. Because I believe in it, and I will fight for it. I will fight for all of you, whether you're middle class, working class, whatever class, because at the end of the day, we all have to live in this society. And if this society does not work for one, how can it be working for the other? It is not right. We have to find a way to bridge the divides, all of the divides, the educational divide, the poverty divide, the economic divide, the social divide, every single divide. And then you have a Mayor Motley running about talking about the country is divided. You mean your party? What country divided? Go and deal with you people. Because you just got to hold my hand everywhere. I understand that she was in Haynesville earlier today. Because we were in Haynesville last night. So I guess she's following me around. I don't understand why. But I guess given the candidature of the soon-to-be former MP for the area, I guess she has to hold their hands. But nobody has to hold the hand of Ronnie Yearwood. because I know how to do this. I've been doing it. All the projects and programs that we've done in this community, I am not the member of parliament for this area as yet, but I have a record. That's one of the strangest things that a candidate can come and tell you. And you know what? It's not even strange because it is true of all of the candidates of the Democratic Labour Party. Ask Corey Cox, ask Ryan Walters, ask Curtis Cave, ask Andre Worrel, ask Paul Gibson. We all have records that we can be proud of in all of our constituencies because the Democratic Labour Party never left you. We don't talk about these things. We just do things and we just, go along because that's how we are. They're not bragging, they're not bold, they're not picture taking. This is just the part, that is the nature of this party. And I want Barbadians to understand that this great institution has always been there. Silently, and I can hold up my hand. We've made missteps. That's part of life. Pay penance, but we are here. We took the beating, we took the lashes. We've taken the men and women of this party. And you know what? We never left you. Not once. You never heard us complaining when we got the lash. We took them. Some instances we deserved them, some we didn't, but we took them. Because at the end of the day, this party believes and loves this country. And it will do what is necessary to ensure that this country can function for the benefit of all Barbadians. Some of the things that I want to see in this community, and this community is diverse, economically diverse, generationally diverse, large elderly populations in some areas, such as Paradise Heights, then more youthful populations in other areas, such as Haynesville. Then you have the kind of middle ground new families that you get in Welch's, and kind of maturing families that you get in Husbands. So you get a real mix. I always think of St. James South as a microcosm of Barbados. And if you can fix things and make them work in St. James South, you can make them work for the rest of Barbados. That's why I think this constituency has a special, special place in Barbados. Especially because this constituency represented the creation of this, efforts of this party to create a middle class, to create opportunities for Barbadians, create new opportunities so that they can live in dignity. And this party can do it again. We answered the call at independence, for political independence. Now we must answer the call for economic independence and empowerment. And I can tell you how we can do it. We can do it. Last night, I talked about universal basic income. I taught, really, which is just putting money in your pockets so that you can make decisions in dignity. Nobody in 2022 should have to depend on politicians to pay their gas or light bill or any of these things. We are creating a mendicant class. That is not right. I have not come into politics to depower and look down on people. I have come into politics to lift up people. I want them to be better. They should be better when I leave than when I came. 20 and 30 years and people bragging, I in parliament for 20 years and 30 years. And I said, man, I used to visit that house and it's the same way. That family is the same family. How is that right? You proud of that? And then me and Motley can be asking about what was my values? Well, look in the mirror. Where are your values? Where are the people in your constituency that are the same way that you left them, that you found them, and you feel proud because they can't come and beg you? I don't never beg you for nothing. The boy in Barbation or beg no politician for anything. I feel uncomfortable. It is not right. There should be systems in place that provide for you. Elderly poverty should not exist. People in these middle class communities are struggling. They struggle in silence because they're dignified people. And I understand that dignity. My mother used to tell me, when you're hungry, don't left the house, when you get to my house, don't wait around for the food. You might be hungry, but you got a little pride. I understand it. We all understand it. And the government needs to be on your side. The government should always be on your side. I understand the purpose of government. Government is here to protect you. Protect you always. That is the purpose of government. Government is not just a showpiece. It's not to say, as prime minister, as a minister, and you feeling good because you're driving book in an MP car. That is not the point. And if you understand the role of government is, the role of government is to care for its people, to help them, to assist them, to empower them. Universal basic income is one way. People are asking, how are we going to pay for this? You know how you pay for things? Priorities. You could pay consultants. You could pay for all kind of foolishness. You could burn fireworks for Republic. But you telling me you can't find money to support some of the people in this neighborhood who may be struggling? Some of the people in all of these neighborhoods are across this community. From the Haynesville to the West Terrace to the Once, every part. But you could find money for other things. Priorities. That's what it's about in the first instances. Second instances, you create a wealth fund so that the program becomes sustainable. It can be sustainable. We can do these things. And you know why? Because we cannot afford not to. Because the result is wasted talent and a failed independence project. We cannot be a failed society. It is estimated that by 2050, the Caribbean will be the most poorest and indebted region in the world. National insurance, the other day just said that they're going to run out of money in 20 years. These are the things that you all will face. I have a solution. I just put one on the table. I challenge them to put something on the table. Or tell me, Ronnie Yearwood, that I'm working, and I will tell you how it can work. And then we can have a debate about it. Where is the solution? Where is your solution to address the things that I just talked about? That's only one. Some of the other issues. Where is the bus for the elderly in this community? A country that does not care about young people or elderly is not a country. And we should be ashamed. We know that these areas have elderly growing populations and we are doing nothing. How do we facilitate them? Old people at a certain age, you can't drive. That's just a reality. We all will get old. And I want to live in dignity the older that I get. There should be buses Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Days to take persons from this community into Bridgetown, Spikestown, Old Town, wherever they want to go. And create special shopping days in the supermarket for the elderly. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Elderly people, 8 to 10. That's your shopping time. None of any other hard men and women. Y'all got nothing to get about the place. These are things that a caring society does. They're simple, they're easy. We have to just think. Or put, what the government is be doing? How you go to cabinet and not have these kinds of debates? Not think about policy. And some policy, and everybody think policy are complex things. Sometimes it's just simple things that allow people to live a dignified life. And that is what the Democratic Labour Party is about. What's the hard book of Chateau? I ain't seen nothing wrong with that. Why people in this constituency still talking about street lights and debushing? We've traversed this constituency, my team, up and down. And I still cannot, my mind is still blowing that people are asking, I want a street light. I want the lot cleared. I got open well. I told one of my team members about open wells in Crystal Heights, and they were like, are you joking? Because people feel that some parts of the constituency, he was like, when you got open wells in Haynesville, I said, no, man, you obviously in Canvas's constituency. I canvass because I know they got open wells everywhere in this constituency. All over. That's a Haynesville issue. That's a St. James South issue. How is that an issue in 2022? You are a member of parliament. Do you not have a program, a schedule? Do you not know how to govern and order your society and your constituency to ensure that it works? We will establish a St. James South task force. I will take it upon myself to build it. It will be done. And if it's one thing that I've demonstrated and my team have demonstrated, when we see a problem or issue and we want to, we put our money and we fix it. We find a way to do it. Because that is what real governance is about. That is what engagement with people is about. I want to just thought one more thing before we go. I know it's getting late, and sometimes my left knee has hurt me too. So I understand. I get in that kind of age. So I'm gonna wrap up. But I want to talk, not esoterically, but I want to talk about governance. It's a favorite pet peeve of mine. And I want you, all of you listening to me, I'm talking as much to people here in St. James South as I'm speaking directly to people at home and all Barbadians. I know a lot of you are frustrated. I know a lot of you have said you're not voting. I get it. I understand your frustration. I feel that you think that we swap one party for another, nothing changes, nothing happens. We're in the same state. In some ways, we are worse. Debt is 12 billion. It's rising. The restructuring was a sham. It was a non-profit. All of this, I know you're hurting. I get it. I am hurting. I hurt for you. I've heard the stories. I take them into my heart. But all I can tell you is that you can vote for the future. You can vote for the future. I can't do it by myself. I can only do it, and we can only do this together. The future is yours to vote for. I want to tell you to let optimism win the day. I want to tell you to let the sunshine in. I want to tell you there are opportunities out there and we can walk in the sun again. I know it feels dark now. I know you feel powerless. I know you feel hopeless. I know it. I feel it. Your families feel it. My family, my friends, I get it. But I want you to give optimism a chance. And the only way you can do that is that you have to vote for it. This is our democracy. 30-0. Me and Motley walked about talking about how she want 30-0 again. What vanity and utter rubbish and insanity for someone to think that having all the seats in Parliament is okay, when the system was designed to accommodate a government and an opposition. There's a reason the system was designed that way. Because you cannot allow one individual or one collective of individuals to have all the power. We have seen the results of that in 3.5 years. You've been ignored. You've been cast aside. Why would we let that happen again? I'm not going to tell you who to vote for because I'm not Mayor Motley. I'm not going to tell you about give me all the seats and watch me. Because no. Because I want you watching me. I want you working with me. I want us to work together. So I'm going to tell you that we can win this. I am going to tell you, and if you're biblical, you're going to get this. In my Father's house, there are many rooms. And if it were not so, I would have told you. Because in this Democratic Labour Party family, there is a space for all of you. I want you to listen and hear me and read my words and reach into my heart and understand that I am telling you the truth. There is a place here for you, all of you, and I want you to come home to the Democratic Labour Party. I want you to elect the candidates of the Democratic Labour Party. I want you to give us a chance, to give your future a chance. Give yourself a chance to walk in the sun again. Come out on January the 19th and vote for the Democratic Labour Party. Vote for me. Vote for Ronnie Yearwood. Vote for Corey Cox. Vote for Worrel. Vote for Ryan Walters. Vote for us. Give us a chance. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.